Hello. And thank you, Kamat. Really appreciate that. Ugh. Appreciate the follow and the sub. Today, if anyone could already tell, we're already talking about a pretty hot topic for the day. It's been blowing up all over Twitter. And honestly, if you've been following us here at the Battle Gamer, you know that this conversation has come up quite a bit. It's inevitable.
Say the line, Cameron. Say the line.
I did accidentally. Well, I didn't accidentally. I did delete the chat, but that's because I wanted to change the text color to make it easier to see. It's okay if y'all just chat. No one's gonna know anyway.
Yeah.
And say the line.
I can't wait.
50 gold!
There it is. There's a line.
Yeah.
That's going to be part of it.
That's going to be a big part of it. And sorry, what were you saying? I interrupted you.
I was just talking about how you should say the line. Because I know that's like... of the design issues of 5e, that's my biggest one. But regardless, we'll get there. 50 gold pieces! I can't wait till that's a big channel thing for you.
Yeah. Also, something that I'm talking about, and I've been kind of conceiving much later down the line, but I think I have invented an interesting way to make a roleplay community of which is easy to find party members, easy to play together, and you can all do it in one place. I think I want to start, I don't know if anyone here has actually been on like an actual like RPG forum, like a storytelling forum whatsoever in the past, but
Nope.
One of the big things about them is, you can go there and all you have to do is just go into different different parts of the forum to see like who's role playing and what part something might be happening. It's just kind of like a large collaborative storytelling, thing. Well, there's a Discord, a massive Discord that you could join into for free, and there's like streets, there's shops, there's all kinds of rooms where you can go and roleplay with people, and then you can go to certain areas to recruit DMs and or players to play in games. And this is all attached to a large official website where your character stats and gear are put up there for you to see. And there's a public profile page, obviously, but not only that, players can level up and play this, but GMs can level up as GMs. And when we host larger events, certain tiers of GMs can run different parts of the event, like the more higher climax parts, for players that kind of ascend through what's going on.
Yeah, it makes sense. Like, modifying a forum to function as a Discord server.
Well, modifying a Discord server to act as a forum in a sense.
Yeah.
And we'll probably end up doing both for people who prefer written narratives versus actual role playing. But for players who it's kind of like an MMO tabletop. You want to actually role play with someone. You just go into the server, you look for any rooms that are, public, you jump in, and you just start role-playing in character there. And when you want to look for a DM, well, this site has DMs that are motivated to be DMs because maybe they want to run some of the higher-level events. And if we do this for the new game system I'm currently developing, this can all be world-building,
Yeah.
So...
Oh, I do want to mention with the chat, I highly doubt we're gonna, and actually I don't know about you, Cameron, with the, all in all, both systems pretty good.
I agree.
Which one you have fun with?
I agree.
I mean, that could possibly be an end for it. But nah, I got hard opinions, but you know.
Well, okay. So I'm also gonna be doing a video on this sometime soon. I just got the Gunslinger video that was supposed to come out last Saturday done. It's out on the channel. It's been popping off actually. It's been doing really, really well. So I'm happy with that. Gunslinger is a really fun class.
It is very cool.
It's a very good one. But I will be doing
about, like gunslingers enough on this. Like,
yeah.
whole thing.
And actually looking into them, they're really cool.
Oh yeah.
But I'll be doing an actual video. Same title almost. Is Pathfinder 2E better than D&D? Mostly because I do believe it's super clickbaity and a lot of people are going to be hopping into it like they are in this chat today.
We clickbaited the fuck out of you.
That's true. But it's also a legitimate conversation. And
it's a conversation we had in private. So
yeah. And it's all over Twitter right now.
It's
the song down real quick.
I mean, it's like popped on my Twitter, and I only follow like a few. I follow a few like Paizo people after like getting into Pathfinder, just so I can like see when the, like stuff's coming out, and it's popped up around like this whole conversation of the differences and is one better than the other, and why haven't you gotten into like Pathfinder, like that whole thing.
Mm-hmm. And so the long and short of it is, no, neither system is better. Pathfinder 2E, I admit, is a much more balanced, sounder, and much better working system overall, for not only for the enjoyments of the players, but the enjoyments of the GM as well, because it gives the GM a lot of tools to operate on. But the one thing that Pathfinder 2 can never be, that D&D 5e has perfected, is accessibility and ease of play. 5e is the easiest form of tabletop to DM with very little practice beforehand.
Utterly and completely. You can pick up the whole Minds of Fendelver shit and just run it from there. Like,
I mean, you don't even do that much. Not only that, but because Wizards of the Coast is a big company, things like D&D Beyond actually work really well.
D&D Beyond's great. I just hate they have to pay for it, but it is very good.
It's very good, but yeah, it's kind of bad you have to pay for it. Cough Cough Pathfinder 2E has all the rules available for free. Archive of Nethys, cough cough. But one of the big things is D&D is easier to get into, not only for the DMs, but also for players. There's just not a lot you have to really worry about, and the action system, even though it's kind of samey as Pathfinder in the sense that they're all taking into assumption that you're using 3 actions in a round.
Mm-hmm.
5e's is really, really simple because you can only do certain things with certain types of actions. You can only move with move actions. You can only use standard actions as actions, and bonus actions with bonus actions. It's pretty easy. It's a very laid out system, and that is in the end where the conversation ends as far as which is better than the other, because 5e will have more players because it's easier to get into, and more people will be GMing 5e because it's brain dead easy to run games in D&D 5e. All you have to do is tell a story, and you have all the stuff you need available. D&D Beyond provides a lot of stuff for you. Character sheets are easy. You can do online play pretty easy. I know Roll20 has a lot of functionality that actually helps D&D a lot, and I use Roll20 for my Pathfinder game, so I know like how effective the system can be. And yeah, it's easy. It doesn't take a whole lot, because whenever there's a question of whether a not rules as written situation comes up, you can just default to advantage, disadvantage. That's it.
Yeah. And besides, like, if there's any with how popular D&D is, if you have like literally any question about a rules thing, like this happens a lot when, because I'm in a 5e campaign right now, like, oh, there's this rule is a little weirdly written. What is the actual like interpretation? You can Google it and you can like find discussion of people's like rule interpretations pretty easily. There's a fuck ton of forum posts like going over like rules or rule discrepancies or possible issues with it. So if you have a problem with 5e and like you're or just confused about a rule, in like a few minutes you can have that problem solved. I am unsure about how much that comes with a Pathfinder 2e, because I know in our playing of it we have issues with the fucking core book and how it's like laid out, but
yeah,
like
it takes a level of mastery to get Pathfinder 2e down.
I love Pathfinder 2e, but man, that core book could really use a little bit of a touch up.
Yeah, it's very wonky where they put everything.
And some of the wording is not the greatest.
It's not the best. I think after 3 or 4 years now of doing 2e, 3 years. Yeah, 3 years of doing 2e. I have now gained a level of mastery that allows me to run the system with little issue. And Casimir, you're right. A lot of people are moving from 5th edition to Pathfinder 2nd edition right now. And that's because Pathfinder 2e is D&D but better as far as how the rule is written, or like how the rules are written and how the game is balanced. It just gives you more. The characters have more customization. The DMs have a lot more and better tools to work with. And not only that, but the system is so well balanced and has a very certain flow to it that once you understand the system, giving your players even homebrew stuff is pretty easy. But homebrew is actually something else I want to kind of throw in D&D 5e's corner, because D&D 5e is such an easy game to get into, and all the things that are wrong with it can be homebrewed. D&D 5e has a lot of homebrew. There's so much homebrew that whatever rule you're thinking about using, someone's already probably put it out there. And that's the thing. If D&D 5e was just tightened up a little bit better and given a little bit more depth, I think it would be just as good as Pathfinder 2e. And that's the thing. Because homebrew and doing everything in Pathfinder is just easy, you don't even have to worry about it, you know? You can play the game, and if they get really close to each other, well, there you go, you know. D&D 5e becomes a better game just because it was tightened up. On principle, I think Pathfinder 2e is a better game, but for accessibility and overall, like, what's better for everyone, I legitimately think that D&D 5e with some tightening up is better than Pathfinder 2e.
I could see that. I think it's the kind of thing of I because I've mentioned I play in a 5e campaign currently, and I mean we're even starting one up soon.
Yeah, it's true.
The version
we're gonna play together, Alex.
Yes, we are. I'm very excited for that. I finally have the time to actually like be in a game. I'm excited to roleplay with all you guys again. But the situation that we're going to be in is we're playing with a DM who's very good at DMing 5e, to the point where he's made 5e have a lot of Pathfinder mechanics. Like in our game that we're going to be joining, feats will matter, and feats are actually feasible to get. Crafting, there's a lot of cool crafting rules. A lot of like, if you're any sort of crafter or magician, you're going to get a fuck ton of things you can do and get, and like, I know he's talked to me about his rules on creating your own spells, like stuff like that. And that's all like Pathfinder mechanics carried over to 5e, very easily implemented. Just takes a little bit of work. But yeah, honestly, my favorite version of 5e is one that's been heavily modified, because I have a lot of issues with 5e that are fixed in Pathfinder. But I don't know. I think the ease of customization that 5e has is one of its strong suits, because it's way easier to explain like D&D and 5e mechanics than over Pathfinder. Introducing a new player to D&D is like crazy easy. I feel way more comfortable explaining, all right, you get an action, bonus action, that's it. But then, like, all right, you get your 3 actions, and here's your 3 actions, here's your 2 action costs, like, all that bullshit.
Yeah, you gotta work on action efficiency, and don't forget that you have a bunch of skills that you can use actions with. And it's not just as simple as, can I intimidate this guy? No, you have to use the demoralize action.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is its own thing. So, yeah. And also, hi, Jess. And Slug, I agree. D&D 5e is definitely the gateway to Pathfinder 2e.
It is a complete gateway drug.
And that's why I'm gonna sit here and I'm gonna say, let's cut the bullshit. Let's talk about what's real and what's actually here before us right now. D&D 5e, as it is designed, is a complete travesty. It's utterly hard to work with when you understand the system. Some subclasses are just superior to other ones because they were designed at a later point when the designers had a better idea about it. Some of the classes are just not really as balanced as some of the other ones. Even when the game first came out, Moon Druid was dumb because eventually they could just become immortal by having infinite transformations. Potions cost 50 gold pieces.
And even then are useless past like level 1.
Yeah, and then are just garbage. They take up too much action and they don't do anything. Being a non-magical healer is utterly pointless for the most part. If you want to get plate mail, you have to just spend 5 levels worth of gold to do so. And that's just to get
that was the
plate
first
mail.
thing you mentioned when we were like building our characters together. You're being like, oh my god, plate mail.
Yeah, I was sitting there like, oh, I'm gonna play a paladin. Oh my god, I forgot. It's 300 gold pieces. Or no, it's 1,000 gold pieces. Oh my god, it's so much worse than I thought. Oh god.
Yeah, play a barbarian. No plate mail needed. Imagine spending money on your character. Cringe.
50 gold.
I just flex.
It's great to play one short campaign and then you realize Pathfinder 2 is... yeah, it's like every time I play Pathfinder 2e, or sorry, D&D 5e, I realize just how good it is for Pathfinder players, because, like... my character appearance is the opposite of yours. That's cool.
I will be honest, Slug, I did not buy a weapon. I was given one, and I will barely use it. Because Path of the Beast exists. Which, by the way, that's another point I will say I will give for D&D. For Pathfinder, all the subclasses are really consistent, like, in how cool they are. Where it's like, they're all, like, really equivalently, like, kind of good. I've yet to see, like, a lot of Pathfinder subclasses. I'm sure because I'm not a number cruncher, someone can actually me here. But, like, they all seem pretty equitable. It's just the aesthetic or the abilities you want to do. In 5e, it's like, you look at the core book subclasses, and you look at Tasha. And the Tasha classes are just objectively cooler. Like,
and better.
The Beast Barbarian is so fucking cool. Like, that is an awesome, like, subclass. Or, like, Oath of the Watcher Paladin. I will say, Oath of Vengeance, love that shit, my favorite shit. But Oath of the Watcher, like, who doesn't want to be a multiverse, like, sentinel that, like, makes sure things stay where they're supposed to be, and you're a secret society paladin order? That's the coolest shit ever.
Actually, I'm playing Oath of the Watcher in our game, too. And yes,
yeah, you'll see
I guess just our characters will just hate each other now. We're as different as night and day.
Oh my god. This will be very interesting.
It's gonna be good.
I'm curious how your character is gonna get along with mine. It's gonna depend on their outlooks on certain things, but it'll be fun. I heard Paladin, and I was me like, ooh.
Yeah, it's gonna be. I'm actually really excited. I have to figure out how to make a smooth, suave, charismatic Russian accent.
Good luck.
It's gonna be hard. Like, apparently, I might not even go that far.
Are you from the northern continent?
Yeah.
Nice. Very fun.
But yeah, I am from Assyria.
Hell yeah.
Hey! Sorry.
That's great. Jess's character in the game we replayed the day before is also from a series.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm playing a character that is exactly the polar opposite of the character I play in his other game. Where in his other game I play a charismatic, goofy, troublemaking bard. In this game, I'm going to be playing someone who's a lot more timid and does not like being the center of the attention, and very socially awkward. That'll be my character for this game.
But yeah, back to what we were talking about. So Pathfinder 2E, yeah, you're right. And the thing is, it extends to beyond that as well. Pathfinder 2E, if you really like your class, if you do any of the multi-classing in a sense, you don't give up your class identity. If you're a wizard, you're still a wizard even when you're at level 20, and you still get access to all the level 20 wizard spells. Unlike in 5th edition, if you want to split spell casting, you might just lose access to endgame spells. Or even like mid-game spells, depending. Also, another thing in Pathfinder 2E that just isn't a thing, you just don't make super duper broken builds. Yeah, I will admit, there's definitely optimized builds. There's definitely builds that do way more damage than a standard build. But in D&D 5e, well, if you've ever been on YouTube, you know. There's a million videos out there of how to break the game.
I've seen a few posts. I've seen the ones I've seen the most is like how to get the highest AC possible.
There's that one. There's Immortal Players. There's Infinite Wizards. That's a fun one.
The coffee wizard, the coffee warlock.
The coffee lock. Yeah, coffee lock is also a big one. Alex is muffled.
I've been checking. I think it was just momentarily.
Okay.
My mic's acting up slightly, but it should be fine. So let me know if like I become like unintelligible. So then I'll have to fix something.
I see. Okay. But yeah, it's just one of those things where, you know, it's inevitable, right? D&D 5e has so much jank, it's just gonna catch up with it. And D&D 5e, I would argue, is harder on the DMs who want to make the game actually really good. Because you have to contend with broken player builds, because you have to alter the rules to allow them to even do anything. Rules is written, you can't make anything over 5 gold pieces worth of value.
Yeah, that is a rule.
Yeah.
That's really dumb.
It's super dumb, ain't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
D&D 5e removes choices from your character creation. The only thing you get to do, pretty much, is choose what class you're leveling into. Feats are just either just better and you take them, or stat boosts are just better and you take them. You're never in a situation where you can freely choose between the two.
I have had very few games outside of like the one DM where I have ever actually considered having feats without being a variant human. Like, oh man, I get a free feat to start with. I get to do a cool little thing. But like most of the time, it's I could get this feat, or I could make this like one skill like a 20 or an 18, so it's a lot more consistent. And a lot of times that's just better. Like, yeah, I want the higher number because it's going to benefit me more than this really, really like sometimes useless ability, or this is really situational, or like depending on the DM, like, oh, this is a really cool ability. Shame I'll never get to use it. Like there's just will be no opportunity in this campaign. Like Pathfinder feats, you know, they actually function well and easy to implement for a lot of situations. Some are very situational, but they're more often sometimes than from some of the fucking D&D ones.
Yeah.
Or at least you can get them easier.
And Jess is right. In D&D, any game worth its salt homebrews to complete the game. Even Critical Role, which is essentially the face of D&D at this point. Like, the Critical Role campaign, it one is the best D&D animated series now with Vox Machina that's ever existed in all the history of D&D so far.
Yeah.
And it's one of the highest, even on Twitch, it's one of the highest, like, grossing channels. And Matt Mercer homebrews the shit out of D&D. And they've had to alter how some of the spells work and all kinds of stuff. And D&D is okay with that because it's like, yeah, that's how you play the game, right? But that's a terrible business model when you're like, our game's kind of shit, so please feel free to change it as you deem fit.
Yeah, I think though honestly, it doesn't make sense for them to fix it. Like, now that I'm thinking about it, because, like, on one hand, the people that, like, are complaining about it are the people in our position who've been playing D&D for a fucking long time. You, like, playing tabletop longer than me. I only got into it, like, 5-6 years ago. But in our position, we bought all the shit. We bought the books. We bought the Get Started or whatever. We bought their merch.
The Get Started.
We're not customers anymore. Like, we're very unlikely to buy more of their shit.
Yep.
And so there's no reason for them to update their rules for people who won't buy it. The people getting into it, they make the investment. They spend the fucking, like, what, hundreds of dollars to get everything. And then they realize that 2 years down the line, oh shit, Pathfinder's just more complicated, has more stuff I want to do. Or they've put that money in and they're investing to make 5e fun for them. So, like, as a business model, it makes sense for them to be accessible. It's like a one-time purchase thing, like, to get into an RPG system.
And I agree, Jess. Yeah, exactly. Core book, core classes, and even some of the ones from the Sword Coast Guide. I think even, Sword Coast Guide even had some of them updated, but not the core ones, which is kind of lame.
I mean, they made Ranger good and Tasha. Like, Ranger actually has cool abilities now.
And there's a book now that's for updating the races and everything like that. Yeah, I honestly, if they just made like a D&D 5.5 book, I think, one, it would sell a shit ton, and two, it would help set a new standard. But in the end, I agree with you, Alex, as well. There is no fixing it because it doesn't need to be fixed. I think for different reasons. One of the things that makes 5e so good is how easy it is to run and to play. And honestly, the more you add into that, the harder it is to do that. In fact, there's been shout out to, who was it? I follow them on Twitter, and I want to do a good shout out for this one because I see their content all the time. I really need to post on Twitter a lot more often.
Gotta be active on social media.
Today is the first day I think I ever actually have tweeted out that we were doing a stream. I should do that more often.
I agree. You should.
Especially
because this is
getting better every day, right?
This is tied into a conversation inspired by Twitter stuff. So
it's true.
Cash in on that.
MacArthur from Deadly D8 asked a question, and I think this question has been asked a lot as well by other people, but that's the one I saw. What prevents players from going over to Pathfinder 2e? And Mr. Rex from YouTube, pretty big YouTuber in the D&D community, commented saying, we just don't want to learn a new set of rules. And Pathfinder looks like it's a lot to take in. And we're already having fun with our game.
I do not blame them. That is a perfectly valid reason to not get invested in something.
And that's something that Pathfinder 2e will never overcome, because to make Pathfinder 2e as good as it is, it needs to be as complicated as it is. And not only that, you get no value moving over to Pathfinder 2e because it's the same style of Tolkien-esque fantasy as D&D. So you can't even get a new aesthetic, you can't even get a new feel. I mean, I will definitely say the Pathfinder lore to me is a lot better than Galarian lore, or not Galarian lore, Forgotten
Faerun.
Realms lore.
Yeah.
Faerun. Because Faerun just has too many fingers in the pot. It got really, really messy, and it's just all over the place. But most people who play D&D 5e don't care about that anyway. I do think
true.
Pathfinder 2e has much better lore and actually establishes a much better fantasy universe. Unfortunately, it's just one of those things where the people in D&D 5e are just not as interested in a slightly better fantasy setting, and they just want to have a game that has simpler looks.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be like judging you for that. Like, I mean, to port it over to more games I play, for people who've maybe not listened to the show, I am a avid Warhammer 40k player. I have multiple armies for 40k. I'm in the position where I've invested money and time into learning 40k. I compete competitively with 40k. There is no reason for me to go over to other games because, like, say Age of Sigmar, I think Age of Sigmar has a bunch of cool shit. It does, but like that's a whole other system that I have to like wrap my head around, and it's already a pretty fat time investment to understand how 40k functions. Like both competitively or like the Crusade mode stuff we're doing, which has a whole nother beast. And then there's like other games like the Lord of the Rings game, the Game of Thrones one, the Marvel one, which I'm actually trying to get in the Marvel one because I heard it's really simple. And so if I'm going to get into another tabletop game, I want it to be easier than 40k. Like it's the same thing. It's like you get into a game, you really invest time learning it. Like it's the opportunity cost of like, why would I get into another game and spend the time struggling to learn how it functions and maybe liking it when I could just play a game I know I like? Like it's honestly, for a lot of people, that's a pretty easy option. Pick the one you know, pick the one you're good at, pick the one you have fun with. Because then you're not wasting your time or money. You're just doing a thing you already like doing.
That's fair. And yeah, though, just to be fair, one, you know someone who's super into Pathfinder.
Yeah.
So, I literally have a Pathfinder YouTube channel after all. So, you get the benefits of knowing someone who knows the game so well. I think for my players sometimes. I'm like, don't forget that feature you got. Here's a really good idea for your build. I do that all the time in Pathfinder. Yep. And my players make really good characters out of it. And yes, Devin, Animal Lore is the shit. But Animal Lore is in a game that no one plays. So...
yeah, and the rules are stupid. So
the rules are pretty bad. And
I will say, oh yeah, that's true actually. More. Let me like bust out my like Spanish skills. No, we just have Jess. Just
true.
give them the errata book.
Yeah, translate every page.
Yes.
Now, I read Spanish. Like my Spanish is okay. I'm definitely super rusty with my Spanish used to be really, really good. I used to work at a store that had predominantly Hispanic customers, and so I just spoke Spanish like all day. And I can read it for the most part. It hurts my brain, but I can translate pretty well. Speaking, it becomes a little rougher. My brain just can't keep up with my mouth sometimes, and I just stutter all over myself. But
cannot relate. There are certain sounds in the Spanish language that I just physically cannot pronounce. And I took it in high school because everyone told me it was the easiest language course, and I cheated the 2 years I was in it. So,
Alex, you're the perfect stand-in for the audience. I promise you. There's so many people did the same thing.
I don't want to... I didn't want to do it. I wanted to learn German, but they didn't offer it. Like, I think the Japanese class was full and also filled with weebs, so I didn't want to like go be in that environment because there's a lot of weirdos in my year of high school that I just didn't want to associate with.
That's fair.
So I took Spanish because I could get away.
Yeah, I was in the class with the psychopath that went on to murder someone, so I get that feeling.
Yeah.
It's like,
listen. I was just in fucking school with a large era of weebs, the trench coat wears, and like the fedora wears, and the people that will explain to you, like, just actually speak Tumblr bullshit to you. And
Yeah.
I didn't want to be associated because I found it weird, so I just kind of did my own thing.
But yeah, so Pathfinder 2E, everything is just really well done. You don't have to worry about it. The game rules make sense. They have a very strong, like, design choice that makes it so that you understand generally what classes will give you. You understand that if you multi-class your character, you're not necessarily going to be as strong in that class as your class, but you can still pick up things that might augment your particular character's style or whatever. And there's even rules out there for people who want to do dual classes, where you level up 2 classes at once. I think that's a bad idea, because that will make your characters very strong, even though the numbers you're hitting isn't necessarily going to be higher, which is, again, that's also a fact that's mind-blowing, right? You can play a double class, leveling 2 classes at the same time, and the game is designed in a way where you're not hitting higher damage numbers or attack numbers necessarily.
Yeah, and like, I think the multi-class system for Pathfinder is like something I actually need to try, because it's, oh my god, it's so much nicer. Good lord.
And, you know, the free archetype dedication extra pool, one, I think is absolutely mandatory in most games.
Big agree.
And I've even adjusted it where you can't take class or multi-class archetypes with it, which forces players to use the archetype system, which is really, really good, and is one of the things that makes it so that the players are not just stereotypes of their class. The archetype, their free archetype dedication bonus fee, which for those who don't know, it pretty much every time you level up in your class, you gain an additional feat and a additional archetype dedication. Archetypes is this game's method of multi-classing, but what makes it different from D&D is this multi-classing has things that are not necessarily classes, but more like professions, jobs, or even aesthetics. Like, one of them is Eldritch Researcher, who focuses on working with aberrations and summoning creatures from other dimensions. Or there's the Ritualist, who is focused on being a better ritual caster than other people who are just casting a ritual normally. That's amazing. D&D 5e has nothing even like that, not even close.
If you want to, like, the only way, like, I'm sitting here trying to even, like, justify the moment. Oh, how could you even get close to that? Yeah, no, there really isn't. The most you can do is, like, yes, I am 2 classes because these levels are useless. It's instead of, like, I'm picking this thing, like, this cool thing because it's good for my character. It's like the position I'm in. I have a Blade Singer Paladin, and I'm like, I picked Blade Singer partially because the last 2 levels of Oath the Watcher Paladin are very cool. So might as well fill it in with, like, Blade Singer shit. It's dumb. Like, I wish there was an easy way to, like, meld classes like Pathfinder does. That doesn't, like, hurt your build, because it's like, oh, I want a multi-class. You have to be very careful with it, or else you're just gonna get fucked over really easily.
Yep. And multi-classing in D&D 5e prevents you from ever getting capstone abilities, pretty much.
Yep.
Which seems really weird. You just can't be the best druid ever if you take 1 level in anything else. And Kazen-san, if that's how you pronounce your name, I apologize. Yeah, dual class is really good if you're playing a game that has, 1 or 2 players. It allows the players to have a lot more variety of actions they can do in combat. It's really, really good. I agree with that wholeheartedly. And yeah, archetype is kind of like prestige classing. What makes it different from prestige classing typically is prestige classes, you needed to have certain class combinations to get to them. Archetypes, for the most part, are pretty easy to get. Some of the worst parts of it are just having skill proficiencies, and that's it. Like, that's the highest requirements that Pathfinder has. You do need stat certain stat levels if you want to do multi-class archetypes. But for the standard archetypes, you don't. And it's a really good system. And the thing is, that's Pathfinder 2e in a nutshell. It's well designed. It's made by people who not only care about the game, but by the community. The fact that Pathfinder 2e puts out as many books as D&D does in a year, despite being, Paizo is a much smaller company overall, is astounding. But not only that, Wizards of the Coast is a giant corporation who doesn't care what they put into D&D 5e, and they'll oftentimes push things that don't belong into it, like this whole magic thing from Magic the Gathering that they've been putting into it. The Ravnica book. Yeah, they have. That was not really the choice of the D&D developers. They're like, hey, we want you to incorporate our biggest profile thing, because Magic the Gathering is Wizards of the Coast, moneymaker, their golden goose, essentially. And they're like, we want you to make D&D content for this. It'll boost your sales and our sales, because, of course Magic the Gathering players will play a D&D game if it has Magic-themed stuff, right? That's not what happens.
Hey, I mean, we can't diss it too much. I mean, they're doing the same thing with 40K. Did you know that, actually? Did you know that?
I didn't know that.
They're making Magic the Gathering, 40K shit. Like, there's cards with Space Marines on it.
Oh, yeah. I knew about that. I see.
But, I mean,
they even have Godzilla stuff on Magic the Gathering cards.
But honestly, the only people I have ever give a shit about the Magic the Gathering books are people who play Magic. One of my roommates, he has all the D&D books, and he has the whatever the fucking Greek one is, I don't know, and then the Ravnica book, and he's mentioned and shown me there's some really cool shit in in those books. Yeah, but not everyone gives a shit about the Magic universe. I don't. I've never found it particularly interesting, so I've never really delved into it. But the rules are fun. I just don't care for the setting.
Yeah, and see, this is something that I think is also important to mention. The developers of D&D are doing a really good job, and like I said, D&D is superior to Pathfinder 2e when you consider the general population, because they've done something that tabletop has struggled to do for years, which is make an easily accessible game that players actually want to play. Just, and they're doing the best they can with it, and everything that they've been forced to make has also made very good content. The Ravnica book has a lot of good stuff in it. The Simic Hybrid, the Centaur, a lot of the races players like to play come from the Ravnica book.
Yeah, that is true.
And it's just one of the things where there's good designers on both sides of this, and they're making two different games. So, to call back for those, because we've been getting some good numbers in this video, or this podcast here, I guess. Yeah. Whatever we're doing, the stream.
Technically, it would be a podcast, I think.
I think it qualifies as a podcast.
Probably.
Neither game is better than the other. What one does great, the other one does differently. D&D 5e is accessible. Pathfinder 2e is not. D&D 5e has a bunch of money behind it. Pathfinder 2e does not. Despite this, Pathfinder 2e is a very well-designed and balanced system where you really have to struggle to break the game, where D&D 5e you run into rule holes all the time that can trip up your games. D&D 5e needs to be homebrewed in order to work at its best, and Pathfinder 2e just doesn't have to worry about that, and they just keep pumping out even better content with every book.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever been as hyped with Pathfinder book releases than I was with 5e book releases. I always get so excited whenever new content drops for Pathfinder.
Oh yeah, Pathfinder 2e, man, it's It's like back in the day when you had to go to midnight releases for games. Man, I remember that time lining up with like 60 other people in front of a GameStop getting Fable 2 or Halo 3 or that kind of stuff. Like, that was fun. And Pathfinder 2E, I would do that. If they had midnight releases for Pathfinder 2 ebooks, I would actually go to that. I would hella. That sounds like a lot of fun. And Pathfinder 2E content is just so good. I would never do that for D&D 5e. I couldn't even bother going to the store to pick up a D&D 5e book, honestly.
No, just find a PDF. Don't even like pay for it. Just find a PDF.
And yeah,
we did talk about that, Jess. We have for one of the reasons I like that version of like 5e so much is because it just takes certain Pathfinder stuff, and also just giving you fucking feats means your character is so much cooler. Like, oh yay, the character I have can do more of the stuff that fits them. Like, now they're more of your character. It doesn't break your game like DMs. A friend of mine does a really cool system. Every 2 levels, like level 2, 6 onward, you get a free feat. 4, 8, like 12 onward, that's your ability score increase. If you adopt it, it doesn't break your system. It just gives your players more fun shit they can do. It makes leveling cooler because you'll have less of those like boring levels where you're like, well, I don't get anything cool. Now you're like, oh shit, it's an even number. I get a cool thing. Either my number's going to get higher or I get a fun new ability. It doesn't break anything. It just gives you more horizontal leveling.
And horizontal leveling is huge.
You gotta have it. It's way more interesting.
Yeah, it like, not everything has to be a power gain. Giving your character depth of mechanics or even aesthetic is super important. Also, I want to take this moment. First of all, thank you, both Unimatrix 1982 and I believe it did come out earlier, for the follows. Thank you so much. If you're all enjoying this conversation either now or watching the VOD, please subscribe and or follow to see more amazing content like this. We do Table Talk every Thursday from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Also here at the Bad Light Gamer channel, in general, we do a lot of Pathfinder 2E and tabletop related content. We even have a great Discord you can join using the link below on YouTube or below there on Twitch. There's an actual little thing you can click to join our Discord. We talk things table talk there. Anytime I'm recruiting for any of my game stuff, I always recruit in my Discord first. In fact, the current game we have on Fridays, Shadows That Laugh, was recruited from players from the Discord. So if you want to check it out, check us out there. Just want to make sure that I plug that, went halfway through here. Make sure that people know, and call to actions help the channel grow. We've gotten over 500 subscribers. We're actually making good progress to the 1,000 subscriber requirement to make an official YouTube channel, and that's pretty cool. So, you know, if you want to help us grow, please help participate. It doesn't require a lot. You don't have to pay anything. You just gotta click a button. That's it. No, Jess, please. Why? Why do you want to scare people off? I don't condone this. Anyone who's puns, it's not my fault. Anyway, so back to the conversation. The biggest thing is that both the game systems are successful. I don't think anyone can disagree with that. No matter what anyone thinks of one system or the other, they're both financially successful, which means that they both are appealing to the market and people are playing them. Whether you think one is superior or not, we also have to admit D&D is got more players in it than Pathfinder 2E does, by not a small margin.
Yeah.
And that's mostly because of the money that Wizards of the Coast pushes onto D&D and the amount of, you know, publicity. Also, Critical Role. I'm so curious to think if Critical Role started with like Pathfinder, would that have made Pathfinder huge? Or was it
think,
because it
I
was
don't think
D&D?
it would have. I don't think it would have, because like, I mean, they played Pathfinder. Like that was, they've mentioned like they came from Pathfinder. But like I think if they did that, we would not have seen the massive tabletop renaissance that like happened. Because people would have been like, this tabletop thing, that's so cool, I'm gonna do that. And then they get with the Pathfinder book and are like, what the fuck is this? What am I doing? I think it would have had a lot more stories of people buying the core book and then like not actually sticking with it, instead of how easy 5e is. Because it's like, I can play the 5e just like the Critical Role people can. And then you buy the Start Collecting book and you're like, this is so easy. I just have to read, and it tells me exactly what to do.
And thank you, Kaizen-san. I will try to remember that pronunciation. But yeah, I agree. I literally think D&D 5e was... It's kind of like the chocolate and peanut butter, you know, the Reese's commercial. Critical Role brought in the chocolate. D&D was the peanut butter. When they came together, no one knew how this would blow up. And I think it's a very good analogy because, like, I, for one, have never dipped chocolate in just straight peanut butter to eat it. And it's nothing I would like think to do. But if I want that experience, I go and buy a Reese's or one of the many other varieties of, you know, chocolate and peanut butter stuff. And Critical Role is just that. You know, they are really good role players, actors, whatever. And they excuse me. And they just made the game better, and so many people love it. Matt Mercer produces content. There's 2 books and an officially recognized class Matt Mercer has produced for D&D. That's how successful their game has been. That is a level of success that D&D has never seen before. That's the thing too. For all those in the role-playing community right now, we are seeing history in the making. D&D has never been this popular ever. It has never been this critically acclaimed ever. And this level of attention and everything we're getting are exactly that. They are just, it's history in the making, you know. These are monumental, and they've changed the tabletop community forever. And it's great. It's great for a lot of people like me who really loves D&D and who loves tabletop in general. I actually kind of hated D&D for a long time. I think 5e is good. But D&D back in the olden days was a lot more hard to get into because a lot of the people who played it were really sweaty at the time or overly serious, or they had a very particular aesthetic that they wanted to achieve, and it wasn't very open, while D&D 5e has been a very open and welcoming has become, you know, exactly what it is. Is the game worth what it became? I mean, that's a good question. I think that's what we're all here to ask, you know.
I mean, honestly, I would say, yeah, sure. In the end, it just boils down to like people having fun with the system. So like something I said last week. What, like, you asked me the question, like, which would you prefer? Like, what, Pathfinder to D&D 5e, or just like which rules you prefer? And I said it doesn't matter to me. All I give a shit about is the table. Like, it's the people that make it enjoyable. So like, you know, if D&D is the thing that brings together and creates friends and like gives you a community like that you can actually feel like happy and accepted in, fucking dope. Job succeeded. There you go. Like, pack it up, I guess. But yeah, that's all that matters in the end. Also, I will mention peanut butter Nutella fucking slaps. That shit's like amazing. Holy fuck.
I've never tried it, so I don't know.
It's very good. It is very good. Obviously not very healthy, but it is. Fair. It tastes very good.
And for Kaizen's on there, it's a bit vague. Are you asking, is what D&D now what D&D should have been? My opinion is yes, because more people are playing it, more people are having fun with it, and the old games still exist and you can still play them. And not only that, but you're more likely to find more people to play those games now because the community and everything tabletop related has just grown exponentially. There's more people, we're more connected. It's just better overall, and that's undeniable.
I mean,
if you don't like, if you don't like 5e, 5e wasn't, or anything prior to 5e just wasn't making the money. They were not going to continue producing it, and there's still people out there producing content for AD&D, D&D 3, even 3.5, you know, all that kind of stuff. So, you know, that content has not gone away. It's still there. Now, if you're talking about, is D&D the system as good as the fame makes it out to be, then I think we're at a point here where I think D&D could be better. I think 5e could be much more, you know, designed and written in a way that's less confusing for DMs and players. And this kind of casual fantasy market is really good. And then you got games like Pathfinder 2e or even Pathfinder 1e that you can go to if you want more of that nitty-gritty kind of feat-based intense RPG system. So like, it's just a win overall.
Yeah, I mean, if it wasn't Wizards of the Coast, some other company would have come around by now and like created what is essentially 5e, because it just makes sense on a business like standpoint. Make something incredibly accessible. Like it's just a good business decision. And besides that, like the success of it has just been a benefit to like the industry itself. It turned a thing that's very niche into a thing that's just more commonplace, makes a lot of money for a lot of people involved. Like, imagine all the jobs it's created with fucking like small time shops, like or comic shops or board game shops, all that stuff. But like, I had a really strong point. I forgot it.
You just dropped it on the floor. Let me pick it up for a second.
I had the idea, really poignant, which isn't normal.
Well, while you're looking for that point, yes. Jess, let me tell you, actually, Pathfinder 2e's temporary hit points are actually not much better. There's a lot of situations where it says you get temporary hit points, and it doesn't say how long they last. And that's a bit confusing. Actually, let me double check here real quick. By the way, I'm checking this out on Archive of Nethys, which, again, is a free system that Paizo officially, you know, supports, where you can get all the rules available to you. You don't have to buy anything, and their game still is successful. I'm just saying. Wizards of the Coast.
I guess, alright, I don't have no idea what, like, the words were to string it together, but I will say, like, at least, by design, there needs to be a system that is incredibly easy to get into. That's just, it's an important thing. And that's kind of cool that there's just this thing, this large thing that anyone can just pick up, have fun, do what they want. That's all that matters. And then you go and find other shit that you actually care way more about. Like, great, good for you. Like, I've gone in, I don't think I would have gone into war games, like tabletop war games, if I wasn't playing D&D. Like, that kind of shit. Also, I will say, the Matthew Mercer effect, is that something you want to discuss either here or another episode? Because like,
no, I think that's appropriate for the conversation. Okay. That's also intertwined with the Twitter.
Yeah,
sure, go ahead. Talk about it.
I was in the boat of a lot of people. I got into D&D because of Critical Role, so I actually did have that Matthew Mercer effect for like a session, and it's because I had me without Warhammer, I am nothing. That is my personality. But I had the Matthew Mercer effect. Like, that was my impression. Like, oh yeah, I'm gonna play D&D. We're gonna have a great session. It's gonna be everyone's gonna be roleplay talking. Everything's gonna feel like a real world. It's gonna be so cinematic. And then like the session came around, and it essentially became me like steamrolling my players, wanting them to do just the things I wanted them to do as a railroad session. And I realized around the end of it, or even like partway through, like, man, this isn't fun. I'm kind of just making everyone kind of annoyed. So then I stopped and I reevaluated and I thought about it more and just kind of had to re-examine as the game of like, this is my fun, my game. I'm not Matthew Mercer, whatever. I can take inspiration from a person who's good at his craft, but I'm not him. That's the thing. Some people just don't, I guess maybe don't have the self-awareness or like don't have that thought process of like not realizing that you don't need to just emulate him. And besides, I like the point he made. Matthew Mercer brought it up, I think himself, that a good to get rid of that effect, the way to get rid of that is by having a very solid session 0, going over everything and the expectations of a game before you actually play it, bringing up like, by the way, this isn't going to be like Critical Role because we're not a bunch of professionals. This is a fun game for us friends. I think it's an important thing to keep in mind.
And just look it up. Yeah, no, there's actually no specific ruling for temporary hit points without a duration. Fun fact. Also, actually, so what the Matt Mercer effect is actually a much deeper subject than just oh look, there's a really good DM. So let's break it down. Yeah, the Matt Mercer effect is a multifaceted thing, and it has a layer of issues depending on what communities you participate in. There's the initial one, which is what you mentioned before, which is the sensationalism of D&D and the idea that your D&D is going to be the same as Critical Role's D&D, because everyone thinks that, oh, it's Matt's really good storytelling that made the game what it is, which it definitely wasn't. It was the cast and how they interacted with his setting that really made it. It was a group, it's a group endeavor, which, tabletop games are a group narrative game. That's just how it works. Yeah. But there's other people in the community as well. The Matt Mercer effect actually represents something different. The way Matt Mercer plays D&D, there's a lot of people, especially from the old guard, who think he diverts too much from the initial way that, like, D&D, AD&D, and 3.0 and 3.5 was played. His has very, like, cinematic, almost anime-like moments. His has a lot of, high fantasy, like super high fantasy elements and everything like that. And so what Matt Mercer has painted is a very particular style of D&D. And there's a lot of people who don't agree with that as an idea. There's a lot of people who prefer the older style of D&D games. And to this, the Matt Mercer effect is not really a thing because D&D 5e is not the older versions of D&D. It was not even initially made that way. And Faerun as a whole has all kinds of, different lore and everything like that. Matt Mercer, of course, made his own setting for it, but what Faerun has become from all, the stuff they put into it is honestly just what the D&D 5e was designed to be anyway. So Matt Mercer really didn't play any part of that. And that's just what it is. So the Matt Mercer effect, I think, is just something that's been super hyped up and overblown out. And it's something that just represents, if anything, it's the Critical Role effect.
Yeah, it's weird that it's painted on him, and I know it's something he's mentioned he doesn't like. But like the one thing I will say that does have merit about it is that there are people who go into D&D expecting every situation to be like Critical Role. That's obviously a minority. And as someone who was in that it is a true thing where you think that's what it's going to be like. but it's not. Every game is different, and it's a lesson everyone needs to learn and should learn, that every table is different, not every table's for you. Find the people that you click with, play games with them, because the people that want the same thing out of a D&D game are the people you have the fun with. It's that part at least has merit. It's a legitimate thing that keeps popping up, and a lot of times, luckily, people realize that it's not a good way to view it, and they kind of break out of it. Some don't, and
well, it's kind of, you could say this is almost the same as the YouTuber effect, which is, I'm going to do YouTube, I'm going to get big, and I'm going to be just like PewDiePie, and a lot of people are super disillusioned with how the experience actually goes. And you know, what Critical Role has done to D&D, people want that experience. People want that super good experience, but they don't know what actually goes into making a good game. So the most apparent thing is, oh my god, Matt Mercer runs a really good game, because Matt Mercer's a really good DM. He gets into character, he makes good settings, he creates interesting narratives.
Yeah.
Those are all surface level. But the only reason why those work is because the cast makes the scenes more interesting. The whole reason why the Legends of Vox Machina on Amazon right now, which I highly recommend anyone watch because it's super good,
fun watch,
is interesting only because the characters are interesting. If you took out the cast of Vox Machina, that story would be boring as hell.
Yeah, I bet if it was just regular Joes, it would not be as fun. Like, not professionals in an industry like that. But yeah, it's a little dumb that it has his name, but like, it's a discussion that pops up fucking constantly.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, I do agree with you. The Matt Mercer effect, quote unquote, as the nomenclature has put it, is a thing. It's something that players get this expectation that D&D plays like Critical Role, not understanding that they have to put in the effort to get it to come out that way. If you're a good player and everyone at your table is a good player and your DM's a good DM, then yes, you can have a Critical Role like campaign. Most people are just not that capable.
Or want to be that capable. Some people
Or want. That's also a huge thing. Okay, actually, let's touch on that for a second here. And I think this is actually really important to the conversation as a whole. So, a lot of people are upset about how D&D 5e is currently done because it's a lot higher fantasy. It very much steps away from the Tolkien-esque, lore. People don't like a lot of the extra races or everything like that. They don't understand that people want to play this style. It's not that the old style is better. People just don't want to play the old style, and vice versa. And when it comes to Pathfinder 2e and D&D 5e, one, you can go in half drunk, have a good time, who cares, and have a really good time.
Yes, I've done
the
that.
Other,
it was a great time.
The other is you go in, you have to understand how the game is played, but if you get into character and you dive into the system full whatever, you can have a really, really good time. The game won't be broken. No players really will have builds that will make you feel like you're just playing a dumb game. But in both cases, the experience you want is dependent upon the people you play with and whether they share that or not. D&D 5e is super casual tabletop. Thus, for super casual tabletop players, it's really good. And for the players who are more than casual,
like us,
they homebrew it to make it work out for them. And for people, or they play Pathfinder 2e, that's just what it is.
Or they find some other weird niche system. But yeah, I mean, like, I've also never understood like complaints about like I don't like D&D because of its aesthetic, just take the rules and make it your aesthetic.
Yeah.
The D20 system with little like funny words tied to it, and like the hardest rule that there is advantage disadvantage system. It's this very simple D20 system. Like, oh man, I don't want to do high fantasy. Okay, port D&D, change up some of the words around, change some of the aesthetic, make yourself like a gothic setting. Go fucking grimdark, like dark fantasy. Go sci-fi. Go western. Just retool some shit.
I mean, that's why they came out with Black Sun and Eberron for those aesthetics.
Yeah.
You know, and Kaizen-san. I agree. Critical Role is full of actors. They're good at role playing because that's what they do for a living. Most players don't have the ability to practice as much or to focus as much on their acting, which is a part of it as well. But they also, for the most part, take it seriously. Of course, Sam Riegel being Sam Riegel, at first I think he was very much a lol random kind of style player, but then he's just molded that into his own unique play style that works actually really well.
Yeah, he's good at what he does. The serious moments are very fun. Man, also, it's a show. Shit there is going to be amplified, so it's a better show. That's, normal. But
I think that's true.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't doubt it. Like, I know I've seen complaints of people being like, "Oh, this is pre-recorded. That's cheapening it. It's a fucking show." Like,
I mean, it is a show, and they do everything live anyway.
You're not watching. Like, this isn't an example of this is how you play D&D. This is a show for entertainment. That's the purpose. So treat it as such.
Well, I think their concern is more it's curated.
Yeah.
And I disagree with that completely. Matt, if you ever hear anything from Matt Mercer, he really does care about tabletop. He's a nerd through and through, and he respects the craft.
Yeah. It gets down to, like, at the end, it's person upset that a person plays a game different than them. It's like, just who fucking cares? Just, like, do something else. Do something constructive. Stop giving a shit about what other people do for fun.
Right.
It doesn't matter.
It's true. And yeah, and that's the thing. Even if it was recorded, even if it was pre-done, whatever, who cares? Like, they obviously are having fun. They obviously are getting hyped over it. All of them are super deep into their characters in tabletop now anyway. It doesn't seem fake. You don't see any of them really blowing off tabletop stuff and not taking it seriously. Like, again, Sam Riegel. He's just going to do what he does. But I think everyone enjoys that anyway. There's just a lot. And I think the biggest part about everything is tabletop is a game of the imagination. Everyone has a different set of preferences and tastes, just like we do with food.
Yep. If it were up to me, I just want a D&D rule system in space. Like, just straight up, if it was just D&D 5e, but sci-fi in, like, cool, dark sci-fi, I'd be into it. I'm not a big fantasy fan. That's something about me. Sci-fi is my favorite shit. That's why I like 40K so much. I want a really good sci-fi tabletop system, but D&D rules are just good. Fantasy stuff's fun too. Not everyone everyone has like different preferences and aesthetics. It's perfectly fine to just be fans of different styles of stuff.
And Kaizen-san, the hobby is not going to die at this point for anything. Too many people know about it. Too many people are super into it. The people that like the old Grognar's revile will keep the game alive because there's so many people who identify as their D&D characters nowadays. Yeah. There's so many people who live, breathe, and eat tabletop now because that's their whole identity.
I have no clue. Like, honestly, I don't think there's anything that could pull me out of the hobby other than, like, the possible future where I just become too busy with other life shit to play D&D regularly. That's the only thing that would take me out of this hobby. There's nothing like, if the books weren't selling, like whatever, I think we'd still just gather together and play tabletop games.
Yeah,
like regardless of the content.
Well, as we did in the Dark Ages.
Yeah,
back when D&D was a joke and you got made fun of and swirlied for it.
Granted, I didn't play during that. I definitely was the person who made fun of D&D because it is for nerds and it's nerd shit and swirlies and wedgies. But it's a good time. Though also I never. The nerdiest thing I did was play COD as a kid, and even that I was playing COD. That's not considered as dork.
That's super casually nerdy.
Exactly, it's like playing a video game.
Jocks play COD, like they're like, oh man, after the game I'm gonna go home and play Call of Duty. Fuck yeah, that's not nerdy at all, really.
Yeah, I wouldn't consider myself a major nerd till like my teens, and even then it was just like I like Lord of the Rings as a kid. Or no, actually, yeah, there was just a good period of my life where I wasn't really nerdy at all. I only became like nerdy later teens, where I'm like, man, Warhammer's cool, D&D's cool. I like these weird like RPGs now, instead of like just playing COD all the time, or fucking playing Halo.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, to go back to what you said earlier, you want high fantasy, or not high fantasy, you want tabletop space stuff. Yes. Yeah, I mean, I'm making a game right now that's a mix of high fantasy, sci-fi, and Elder Tor.
Yeah, the sci-fi elements you described to me, I think sound very fun. So that's for me. I like space travel stuff. I like cool sci-fi. And I wanna fly around in a ship, explore planets, fight weird aliens, shoot big guns, fight with weapons that make no fucking sense, but like you just say future tech, and everyone's like, okay, that's my shit. I want the hand wave of technology instead of the hand wave of magic.
Fair. Well, the point I was making was, I'm making my own game. I still love Pathfinder 2e.
Yeah.
It's like, you can love hamburgers and want pizza sometime. So, whether you play D&D, if you play both, there doesn't have to be a better. There can be a, man, I'm stressed out. Let me go pop a couple shots and just fuck around as a goblin in a game of D&D. And then
I've done that, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And then there's, I want to make an intense character. I want a character that'll be talked about for years. Let's go. Let's get our character sheet. Let's get really into it. Let's tell a deep narrative. Excuse me. And that's, that's just what it is in the end of the day. Pizza or hamburgers, You just you can have what you want, and like the whole point of this conversation in general is both games are good. I prefer Pathfinder 2e because I am so deep in the hobby that the more advanced rule set isn't off-putting for me, and it actually adds something to the game for me. So I can still have a very chill time just playing Pathfinder 2e. Not everyone has that a level of dedication or capability. Some people just can't look at a rule book as thick as, like a Bible and get excited about it,
Yep. Big agree. Big fucking agree. Rule books, lame. Getting explained to me, like king shit.
Feed me like a baby bird. I'm just gonna sit here. You're just gonna give it to me. Yeah.
Also, I wanna ask Cameron, have you?
Sure.
The message Slug just sent in chat. Doesn't that just sound like something I'd say to you?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, there's a reason we're friends, Slug.
It's trademark you.
Yeah, telekinesis and guns. That's my shit. Though I will also mention, The Star Wars RPG. I know it's not probably not the same one, but I have played the Fantasy Flight or tabletop RPGs. Like I forget what their name is. Like Shadow of the Empire, or like some bullshit. They all have Empire or whatever in the title. With like the fancy little dice system. It's really fun. The system's dope. The only thing that's holding me back from super enjoying it is I just do not give a shit about Star Wars and I don't like the universe. That is the only thing that is holding me back. Same with Star Trek shit. I hear it has some really fun games attached. I just do not give a shit about the world and I don't like it. So like
That's fair.
yeah, but the actual mechanics of the Star Wars game are so fucking fun. Like it is really cool rules that I think would do well in other systems, and I sadly just do not see in other systems as much. But it's also very weird and complicated, and picking up the core book, you will be lost.
Yeah,
like it is weird.
Another good example of that as well. I absolutely love Pathfinder 2E. I hate the tropey Tolkien-esque fantasy, high fantasy stuff. Like, I think Forgotten Realms is really messy lore and is not very interesting to me personally. Pathfinders is marginally better. Being from one source entirely and not having a bunch of like different authors pitching in from like different decades even.
Yeah.
Like it's better, right?
I mean,
I love Pathfinder.
Pathfinder lore is more interesting. D&D lore is the most I know is Baldur's. People will not leave Baldur's Gate alone. Like that's it.
But I love Pathfinder 2E because the game system is super fun. Because the characters I can make, like a character I'm going to be playing rather soon, is I'm going to be playing a Magus whose family was cursed to look like horrible Capoblepus style beasts. You know, large Arakian, stinky monsters, and he's able to retain that. He's gifted with the ability to reduce that to some degree. He still smells to holy hell. He wears thick clothes lined with mint. He constantly chews on mint to hide it. But his eyes glow in the dark and whatever. And he has a... he got in contact with a patron, some otherworldly entity, that has taught him how to use rune magics. Right. All sounds really, really cool. All sounds super interesting. That's not standard Forgotten Realms lore, or even lore from Galarian. Like, characters like that are just not that designed. They're a lot more stereotypical. You can do that. But Anima Beyond Fantasy has the best lore, or at least for me, has the best lore of any tabletop system I've ever played ever. The world is interesting to explore. The characters in the world are interesting to explore from a roleplay perspective. The game has the right levels of high fantasy and anime to it that I really enjoy, while still kind of being a lot more reserved in like a medieval kind of setting. Anima is really, really good narratively. The rule system is garbage.
God, yes. I will say, I like Anima when the anime shit is toned down. From an aesthetic, it's something I saw in a tweet recently. Honestly, it was talking about how it's really hard to recommend anime to like newer friends because you don't know what their tolerance bar for anime shit is. Mine is incredibly low. I'm not a big fan of anime stuff, like that anime shit. It annoys me. I get very frustrated by it. Anima's very cool. I love it a lot. When the anime shit's toned down, phenomenal. When I see some character designs that look like straight out of fucking Bleach or something, I'm like, all right. But no, it's difference of taste. I like Anima. I like the lore you deliver. I don't love the setting as much as you do, but like, you know, got different like interests.
Yes, I mean,
the passion you have for it makes it interesting.
That's true. And I guess what I say when I like how anime it is, I just like high intensity, like bonkers combat. I like characters who jump from walls, fight off of each other. Like, I like that stuff. That's what I mean by anime. I love high action, high fantasy combat.
The good shit in anime.
Yeah,
like
it's the good shit in anime.
That's fun to watch.
That's why I'm like my tastes are anime, because anime has tons of that all over the place.
Cowboy Bebop's a good mix. Cowboy Bebop is fine. It doesn't do it as much.
Yeah, I mean, Cowboy Bebop's pretty low on the fantasy scale, honestly.
It's low on the
sci-fi
anime bullshit scale. I don't know. I'm not gonna rant about anime.
It's not
here.
that Alex hates animes. He hates tropes from like fantasy style animes.
Got to. I mean, I hate slice of life and a lot of most fantasy anime. It's like, for example, I just want to watch people punch each other. I'm a Dragon Ball Z fan. I'm a JoJo fan. I like Jujutsu Kaisen, Cowboy Bebop, Kengan.
Jujutsu Kaisen, that's a really good example.
Yes, very good. But like, I don't want to watch fucking like a weird harem shit. I don't want to watch someone get transported into a fantasy world again. I don't want to watch two like weird high school students have a stupid romance. Boring as shit, annoying to watch, frustrating. Don't want to see it. I am under the opinion that 99% of anime is garbage, and there's like 1% that is shining gold. To be fair, I believe that about most mediums.
Yeah,
so
I agree.
Yeah, but I think with anime it's very different because just with the market that they have to deal with, you have to make a lot of things that are mass appeal because the anime market makes very little money. So I understand why they do it. I just don't like it.
Yep.
Yeah.
But I guess my point earlier was Anima is a game I love for the lore, and the narratives we told in it have been mind-blowing. A character died, and we all got fucked up by it.
Oh my god, yes.
And we still talk about that character to this day. Very rarely have I had characters die and kind of remain in the group's zeitgeist for longer than like a few sessions.
Yeah, no, it was fucked. I was like actually fucked up for a bit. It was my character, by the way. Like, to be fair though, Cameron kills all my characters, so just kind of has it out for me.
Yeah, I have a really good record of not killing my players, so I wonder what makes you special.
I bet it's certainly not me. I don't play my characters in any way that draw aggro just naturally. I would never do that.
You can't see it, but I'm shaking my head quite vigorously. But yeah, it's and that's the thing though. I prefer running Pathfinder 2 to Animus. It feels better. I feel like I don't have to work as hard. But nothing will beat a lot of the narratives we told in Anima.
No, Anima is something special. And in that spot, like my point from both this table talk and the last one, the best tabletop system is one where you just mesh the best with your table. The people will make up for bad rules in the end. Yep. If you just are playing in a system where you're like, man, these rules aren't great, but you have a lot of sessions where are just amazing stories and your characters that all flow really well and like everyone's got a great dynamic, that's gonna win out over like in your memory than like, yeah, I don't like how the skill works because it's not as useful or it's a little broken and unbalanced. Like, instead you're gonna be talking about the cool fight you did, like we did this cool cinematic thing to kill the dragon, or we had this really deep emotional conversation that broke down what my character really is inside. Like, that's the shit you remember and care about. For most people, at least.
We do. And I want to say a few things first. Kaizen-san, Anima Beyond Fantasy is the game system. The setting is technically called Gaia. I have a video on it on my YouTube if you want to check that out. Also, thank you so much. You're offering so many good tabletop games that are not very well known here in the chat.
I've heard of literally none of them.
I've heard of quite a few of them, and they're all really good systems. And I just want to say thank you. Thank you so much for participating in the chat and really being a good, like, resource for people who are looking into table talk as well. I want to point out people in the community who are like that. So, but yeah, and I mean, we keep coming back to this, but if D&D 5e and Pathfinder 2e are really just different games. They're different games. You're allowed to play them. It's like people who play multiple MMOs. Like, you don't have to have a favorite. You can just enjoy playing 2 MMOs and it not be a deal, you know?
Yeah, you can just, like, it is a totally normal and okay thing to like multiple things. I actually see that a lot online. It feels like a growing trend is you have to like something and tie your entire personality to it. Obviously, a lot of that's by choice for like people, but like a lot of people will take a thing and they will make their entire identity that thing. Gives them enjoyment, fucking good for them, I guess. But you don't have to. You can just like multiple things. Like, well, I can claim like, oh man, I really like Warhammer, but also like Anima's pretty cool. And so is Galarian lore. And I can hold those in equal regard. I don't, but I can.
Jess. I like that comment. Yeah. Yeah, it's the whole like identity thing, that's a bit of tribalism. People form strong attachments to things to find other people attached to those things. It's also part of the human ego. There's a lot of interesting psychology that goes behind it, and one of the interesting things about it is we all do it to some extent. You have yourself a identity you hold on to as far as like who you are as a person. It might not be attached to like a theme or a subject as tightly, but you have certain things that about yourself that you won't budge on changing for your personality. And the people who are like, I am my character from Final Fantasy 14. I identify as a Lalafell.
That's a made-up
They word. Also have things. Cringe, bro. Cringe, by the way. But they also have things that they just don't care as much about and don't attach to their identity. We all do it in different degrees. It's just whether yours is a loud identity or a quiet one.
I mean, honestly, it's pretty easy to see what I tie myself to if you just look at my Discord. Like, if you join the Discord down below.
Join the Discord. Also,
my username on Discord is Gloomboy. Like, you'll see. It's immediate. Like, you'll immediately peg, like, oh yeah, he's a 40k fan. Also, I have no fucking clue what a Lalafell is. You made that up. That's not real. It's a made-up word. Wait, actually, let me guess from my surface level knowledge of Final Fantasy 14. Is it the rabbit people?
No.
Okay, then I don't know.
That's Viera.
Is it the race that one dude whose dad is God and likes to suplex him?
No, that's here.
Okay, then I don't know. I have no clue.
It's the short Munchkin people.
Oh, those ones. Yeah, those tiny people. I don't know. I've seen the pictures. To be fair, a lot of my knowledge of Final Fantasy 14 comes from you guys like explaining bits to me. And then, like, when Rubber Ross did the eating a fuck ton of eggs bit, and I just saw a bunch of weird little things standing around him. I was like, that looks weird and fantastical.
I run them over with my regalia. I love this. And yeah, Jess, Devin asks Jess, how's Lost Ark? Jess is like, G simulator. Because you press the G button a lot to spam through the quests.
Oh, it's you just, skip cutscene. Relatable.
Well, it's skip dialogue. You have to accept a lot of things. You have to go. Unfortunately, I don't know why MMOs do this nowadays still. Players don't care about stupid story quests where they run around and pick shit up. You want to tell an invoking narrative? Fine. Okay. Cutscenes, character dialogue, whatever. Don't make my character run over and pick up 100 pieces of rice to show me why having a pet is awesome in Lost Ark. Okay, that's completely needless, and they'll get the idea, trust me, just by having a pet.
It's honestly, I will say similarly to like Dying Light 2. Like, just spam the ever living fuck out of the skip dialogue button. Very relatable. Though
Yeah.
I will also mention like I actually haven't picked up the Warhammer Fantasy RPG books. Or like the old stuff on it. Most I know about like old Warhammer stuff is the Rogue Trader stuff. And also I think that they've been changed in that meantime. I know at least for part of it there used to be 5 Chaos Gods. And especially if it's fantasy, there actually is 5 because it's the big rat is a Chaos God. I'm not going to tell a haha funny. I'm going to talk about Warhammer. It's my crutch. I don't do well alone. The camera keeps leaving. I only know Warhammer. I don't even like Warhammer Fantasy that much, but it's kind of cool. Did you know that there's a faction in Warhammer Age of Sigmar that are just the Bone IRS? I like them a lot. Their whole thing is they just kind of roll up to a town. They're like, hello, you've missed your bone payment. Give us your bones. And they're like, what the fuck are you talking about? And then they kill everyone and take their bones. I like that faction. They're kind of cool. And they have a model that's a dude that's on a big throne. And he won't do anything in your battle until a certain number of models die because he's like, all right, I'll have to get involved. That's funny to me. That's being just fucking bullied in this chat. Cameron better get back soon. I don't like puns. I don't tell puns. It's not my thing. I'm not gonna do that either. Like a bunch of fucking unruly children the moment Cameron leaves. I'm not gonna show my cat. I can't turn on.
It's because they smell your weakness, Alex.
I'm scared.
I can't get up
Cameron.
for a full minute to take a piss. Come on.
I'm scared, Cameron. I'm not. There's a reason I haven't done YouTube shit.
Dead as back scatter.
I don't do live stream shit because of this. I wouldn't function well in it.
Oh, so we have some cat cam here. I need to get a camera specifically for Celeste's bed here.
Yeah, honestly.
Cat cams. The future.
Cat cam. It's important.
It is important.
Yeah, you could just have a button that's like, or like people pay amount of money and then you get to see the cat cam.
Yeah, that'd be actually pretty good. I mean, definitely when we become an official channel on YouTube, by the way, we can start doing donation stuffs on YouTube. So
yeah, you can't leave during these streams, Cameron. I'll get bullied. I don't function well under pressure. You know that. Well, actually, that's just not true. But I don't do good talking to a microphone and no one else.
I was gone for a minute.
It's too long. A minute too long. You left me for the wolves, Cameron. You pushed a bunch of chum in the water and pushed me.
I left you to a rabid pack of corgis.
Yes. They're dangerous. They'll request me to do weird things. I can't do that.
I'm not their monkey.
I won't dance for peanuts.
I won't dance for peanuts. All right, let's see this chest. I'm curious.
I am curious. Magnus the Red.
Will you dance for Warhammer models?
Probably.
Oh god.
Do you know how expensive Warhammer models are? If one of you rolled up and said, "Hey, Alex, I will buy you a bunch of Tervagants if you do a funny little song and dance," I'll probably do it. Or, "Hey, do you want a bunch of Hive Tyrants or Hive Guard?" Yeah, just do this weird thing. I'd do it. I'm not spending that much money. Listen, I have standards, but they're not that
I have
high.
the best idea.
Oh, what?
In the future. When I have a nice house, I can modify whatever. I'll get a stripper pole.
I
And
don't like this.
we'll have a donate-a-thon for Alex, where every dollar, every $5. Yeah, I'll be nice. Every $5 donated, Alex will dance on this stripper pole for a second for every $5. And we'll see how long we can make you dance on that stripper pole, and then all that money will go to you. You can buy as many Warhammer figures as you want.
Pasty white. I have no rhythm.
Like, I say you had to be naked.
No, that's not. The point isn't that I'm naked. The point is that I'm a white dude and have no rhythm. That's just a thing.
and
also true.
The money will tell how good a job you're doing. Hey, I'm just saying. You do it for a full minute, you made $300.
That's a good few boxes.
Yeah. I guess I know where I'm dropping my $500 or $100.
I could buy 2 characters with that.
See? It's like a subathon, only more expensive and for less time.
And degrading more degrading.
Is it degrading if you want to do it?
It's not that I want to, it's that I have an addiction that I cannot control. That's more of what it is. You're exploiting an addict for money.
So Jess, you're saying you could make him dance for 2 minutes?
No, I wouldn't stop anyone, but I would be upset about it. I wouldn't stop it, but I wouldn't be happy. But I would get the funny plastic models.
Yeah.
Maybe. Oh man, if I dance for what? Like, what was the exchange rate you mentioned?
A minute was $300.
How much is like 450?
400. All right, Alex. Let's do some simple math here for you.
No.
What's the difference between 450 and 300?
150.
All right. What's half of 300?
150.
Cool. So if a minute is $300, how much do you have to dance to get 450?
30 seconds?
A minute and 30 seconds, yes.
Oh. I want you to understand, Cameron. I do not understand numbers. Like
30 seconds.
I don't understand how numbers work. You don't process right. I'm just saying, I'm trying to do the math so I can get one model. There's a model I want that's $440. Hey, I've struggled with this all my life through school. I don't need this in my friends too.
I do believe links are allowed, by the way.
Oh, they might be. I don't remember.
Oh my god! Clip that! Clip that! Someone clip that! Oh my god!
Oh damn it! I'll be foolishly mocked. Oh, fucking! I see Among Us. I'm immediately upset. My identity would be hidden, so I'd be fine with that. Oh, the fucking, oh my god, I just remember the really cringy, like, it was like 2020, like, review thing. It was a stage performance where they were talking about Twitch and, like, fucking, like, in Among Us. And they fucking, like, danced in those suits, and it was the worst thing I've ever seen. I forget what it was. It was almost like a year in review, but it was like a Broadway play, and they had, like, fucking Corpse Husband AOC. Like, the whole thing, they played Among Us together. It was painful. I find those suits very funny.
For those of you who might be scared to click the link, this is the thing. which I'm just gonna say Alex shouldn't do it in that because I don't trust him to even use his hands while pole dancing effectively. Removing those from the equation.
This just lets me like, oh man, pay you money to dance. I will just gesticulate inside of a weird suit.
It just vibrates in this.
I'm fine with doing that. Fucking wiggle around in a comic fashion. And then you can have the alert button be the someone called a meeting noise. And then just play the trap remix of the fucking Among Us song. It'd be very funny.
I hate that every time I reset the scene, it gets rid of all the chat.
Yeah, it's lame. I would not do that for free. Excuse you. I'm not doing anything for free. Y'all get nothing. I'm a man of principle. Ugh.
Man, this has been a good stream so far. Honestly,
Yeah.
we had 17 people at one point.
Yeah, hell yeah.
It's pretty big.
Also, a few drinks wouldn't do that. The only thing that happens is that I get happier when I drink. That doesn't mean I'm gonna do dumb shit. I am still in control when I drink. Also because I don't drink like a lot. I would not dance for D&D heals. It's Warhammer and nothing else. Because listen, the amount of fucking
we can
money
make him dance for three at Vulns.
3. Oh my god, I would. I want 3-up saves. Give me my 3-up invuls back.
3-up invulns.
They took it away. Give it back. They made my army so much more fun to play, but they took away the funny 3-up invul.
Just was napping to the soothing sounds of Wizards of the Coast being wrong.
Fair thing to nap to.
In what way? I'm curious.
Just, designs. It was just to be honest, we've been very tame to D&D. We said it's designed as shit, but it's not a bad thing.
Oh, man. It's been I don't know why I'm so tired after all of this. I guess it's just... we finally had the conversation. We finally did...
The big, because we dance around it every tabletop.
We do. Well, it's because the conversation invariably goes, play what's fun. That's it. There's no better or worse. There's people out there who will tell you that even if one is subjectively better, you can still like them both. So it really doesn't matter.
I'll say that. Most things that the internet argues about doesn't matter. So, it's just how it be. And things get a lot easier in life once you start just heavily prioritizing what does and doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And discussions about essentially whose dad could beat who doesn't matter. It's a pointless argument. In the end, you're just going to go on your separate ways and do the thing you were doing. Nothing changes. Nothing of value was gained or lost. Except your time.
And it's not that the D&D team is choosing not to make improvements. It's that Wizards of the Coast is forcing them to constantly pump out new content rather than letting them sit down and fix what they got.
Yeah, and I mean, besides, I'm under the belief that they will not ever redesign D&D because or maybe they will at some point. But like, honestly, at the point they're at, there is no financial incentive to do so. They can probably just make more money by making a new source book. Just talk about how there's new races and like a new subclass or two, and they'll make more money than they would with D&D 5.5.
It's like the movie industry nowadays. They just keep riding the same old hype trains, and it keeps making money because people can't help themselves.
It's also because they kind of have to. It's
well, yeah, and it's because it's proven that new IPs lose them money.
Yep, and also besides that, it's in the movie industry. This is something I've been like, it's been hammered into my head in my classes recently. I think it's an important thing to recognize with how the Hollywood system works. The kind of thing of if you're a producer on a movie, by saying you are the producer on a movie, you are tying your career to the movie's success. So if a movie doesn't succeed, a lot of like 9 times out of 10, that producer is just fired. And being fired in Hollywood means that you're out of the industry entirely. Because now you're blacklisted, so someone else can come in who will make the money. So like new IPs are scary because like, yes, I will tie my entire livelihood onto this one idea. That is a stupid decision. All movies are, like filmmaking is a dumb gamble that you hope you win. That is what it is. So I don't blame them for a second on doing remakes and like reboots and all that shit. I don't like it, but I don't blame them.
Yeah,
it's just how the system is, and it's not going to change anytime soon. Just find a few good directors and follow their work. It's the only thing you can do. It's the directors who have established themselves in the industry so they have just copious amounts of clout so they can do whatever the fuck they want.
Yeah. And, oh, I should have did hashtag TTRPG. Oh, whatever.
That would have probably worked.
Yeah, whatever. It's, and the thing is, right, this doesn't get fixed by companies doing anything differently. This gets fixed by people spending their money differently. And you can't control how people spend their money. So
if you don't like 5e, don't buy it. If you want 5e to change, don't buy it. That's not going to be the case because not everyone is going to follow through with it.
And no one cares that much. There's so many people who are just like, I'll just buy it anyway because I like it and I think it's fun. That's it. Or I do it because it's a part of my collection hobby, you know?
Yep.
This is why the game industry rarely changes. It's because literally the people who want the industry to change might do the thing, but there's people out there who don't care and they'll spend their money anyway. Because not a lot of people have enough mental to put into every basket. You know what I mean? I, for instance, will continue watching, channels on YouTube rather than buying TV. Even if the YouTube is kind of garbage. Like, sometimes it's just something like, if a YouTuber is putting something on and I like that YouTuber, I'll put it on and just listen to it in the background, even if their content's garbage. I just don't care what a YouTuber puts out most of the time because they can do whatever they want.
True.
And I'm not going to be like, no, I think your content now is lame. I'm just not going to listen to your content. No one does that. That's why people farm trolls on the internet. That's why there's hate farming on the internet. For people who don't know, who aren't content creators, hate farming is when you say something controversial but not damning to generate discussions on your videos to help the algorithm to get that video out to more people.
All engagement's good engagement.
Mm-hmm. And now it's worse because you can't see the dislike button, so you can't go to a video and see just how much people dislike it. Even if you don't see a lot of dislikes, if you go to like a hate video and you don't see a lot of dislikes, that probably means that it's just baiting you and you could pop out, but we don't have that anymore. I'm not as big on the whole dislike button as other people. Whether it's there or not, it really doesn't matter. People will watch a train wreck if it's entertaining enough.
True. I also, I mean, I know I have a bunch of weird, like, not very many views, like, videos in my likes that I think are just weird and funny, but, like, they have a fuck ton of dislikes. Obviously, now I can't see it anymore. But, the argument just in general was stupid. But also, in the end, I don't care. Like most things. It doesn't matter. But, like, the argument of we're doing this to protect our creators so they don't have to have the negative mental effects of seeing their videos get a lot of dislikes, and then, like, oh, by the way, the creators still see their dislikes.
Yep.
That is really fucking... That's a stupid argument. Everyone knows
dumb.
It's because a bunch of advertisers are getting dislike bombed and they complain to YouTube and Google.
Yep.
Everyone knows that's what it is.
Yep.
It's like a barely hidden secret.
Well, and there's that, and not only that, but because it's blanketed advertising, you know? It's not like anyone watches your video and picks an advertisement for it. There's companies out there who don't want their videos on their advertisements on highly disliked videos. And this causes massive headaches for YouTube because they can't do anything about it because it's all automated. So they took out the dislike button so that big ass companies full of old fogies who don't know how the internet works don't get upset when a video that their advertisement shows up on has a lot of dislikes. You have no idea. No one has any idea how much powerful industries, are run by people who actually don't understand how they work.
Yeah, it's fucking weird and absurd. Like, how that's just a thing.
It's like the music industry. How they're so upset when their music gets pirated, right? When in actuality, you don't know how good a song is until you hear it. And people who really like a song will go and buy that song anyway. It's like advertising when you get your stuff pirated, more or less. You know? Because the people who like it will like it. And if you crack down on people for it, your music doesn't get played more often, and you just start losing potential people who will listen to your music regardless.
I mean, you could always just do the CD Projekt Red approach of, man, pirate it if you wanna. Hopefully you like it enough that you just buy it for real.
And that's kind of the thing with marketing in general. Like, the whole point of marketing is just to get it on so many people's eyes for the 1% who do want to buy it will buy it. And it's the same thing for, like, tabletop or whatever. You know, 5th edition books are pirated all the time, right?
I have a Google folder with them all.
But D&D still makes money.
I wonder how much of that is just funded by Magic.
I mean, a lot of it, to be fair. But D&D actually does make money.
Yeah, true.
They've been marketing it super well.
You know, they're very effective at what they're doing. They got a solid business model. As such, they're not going to change anytime soon. Just how it be. That's our capitalist system for you.
And Kaizen-san, yes, to a degree. It depends on the contracts that they make with them. Most companies have broad spectrum advertising on the platform, and while they can blacklist certain channels for it not to show up on, YouTube platform literally uploads millions of videos per day. It is impossible to blacklist enough channels.
The most you can hope for is that it's the big ones that people actually pay attention to. Which, to be honest, is like all you can do. You gotta prioritize like the battles you fight. Because why would you care about if your ad appears on a really weird, shitty 1,000 subscriber channel when there's a $5 million channel that's really shitty that has your ad on it? Those are not comparable. They'll always go for the big one.
Yeah. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah, no, you didn't. I was ending my thought.
But yeah, and kind of what Gray is saying here in the chat. All of Pathfinder's content is up on Archive and Nethys. It's free. Paizo endorses it. Paizo still makes tons of money. Yeah, they're not a rich multi-million-dollar company, whatever. They still make enough to keep things going. And you know what? I have almost all the books. I like the game, and I bought all the books.
Yeah, the books have. I fucking bought one of the books like too. I only have one book, and it's the Guns and Gears book, and that's because I was so hyped for it. I wanted to read it early.
Yeah.
Like that's all it was. Like and even like for Archive and Ethos, like they don't run ads, but they have a donate button. I bet a lot of people donate to them.
Yeah, I wish I could, honestly. I don't have enough money. But
if I had a lot of disposable income, I probably would.
Yeah.
I don't, so they ain't getting my money.
Fair.
It's for food in plastic. Plastic models.
Well, I mean, it depends. A lot of it, I don't know. It's a talk for another day. We're actually well over time at this point.
True.
I gotta go make some stir fry.
I gotta
today.
get food and study. I have a test that I'm not prepared for.
But it's a good message to have. Support small businesses, support people that you really like, and not only that, support when you can for content you want to see more of. Just because you like something doesn't mean it's going to keep going. So put your money where it matters. Don't spend money on garbage things. Don't spend money on loot boxes and stuff like that in games. That $5 you're spending on loot boxes can go somewhere else. But if you do like spending money and buying loot boxes makes you happy, whatever, it's your money. You know, play how you want. But there's really good ways of using money, and not supporting shitty company and business models is definitely a way of transferring that money to somewhere else. So
true.
Especially like for me, you know, I'm making a game. Eventually we'll probably be having a Patreon, and a lot of the rate at which we produce content will be based on what money we get. Honestly, like if I even get like $300 per video on YouTube, you know, whatever, I can invest $100 into hiring an editor to edit that video, and then I can make another video in that month myself and expand our company, you know, whatever. But that only works if I have capital enough to even do that much. So, you know, putting your money where it matters really helps.
Yep.
And with that, one final note: play what you want, do what you want, eat what you want, and remember, we're gonna have Alex stripping at some point for Warhammer figurines.
I'm not stripping
in the future. I'm sorry.
That
pole
part,
dancing.
That works better.
You're right. I'm sorry. And also, Alex can't do math. And I'm gonna clip that part. That's so good.
We could have a little fund where it's like there's a bar and there's just tick marks that are all models and kits I really want.
That'd be good.
That'd be really funny.
That'd be very fun.
The final one is the Tyranid Hierophant, which is fucking massive and $440. I really want it, but that's an absurd amount of money.
You would be surprised what people will do to make you suffer for as long as possible.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. That'd be really funny, actually.
Do one math problem for every $5.
Actually,
man, Alex, you're the golden goose. You're the cash cow. I just gotta keep you around so that people can abuse you for money.
The thing that would make that really interesting too is there is actually a thing, a pretty solid chance that I have like a form of dyslexia for numbers. I think it's dyscalculia.
It's calculia.
I think so.
Yeah.
But like I just numbers don't process well for me, so that would actually be very funny. I'd be fine with that. I'd be fine showcasing the skills that made me a C average student in all my math classes.
Honestly,
I only survived geometry because I cheated. So
honestly, if the YouTube channel like really takes off, I think a video I'd like to do is we'll just have you there sitting at a small desk in a big open empty room, and we'll give you a list of math problems that you have to solve in a certain amount of time.
Oh my god!
It's like, all right, go to the first page, solve this in a minute, And if you get the answer wrong, we give you like a little shock.
No, Jesus Christ. I would do that.
But really wouldn't that be a funny video?
That'd be hysterical. I'd totally watch that.
I would totally watch that. That'd be so super good.
It's a great concept. I suck at math. Basic math. The only numbers I can do are from like 1 to 30, and that's because of D&D.
I mean, you couldn't subtract 150 from 450.
You were doing different units. You were throwing time and like money at me. I can't do that. Money's on a 100 scale, time's on a 60 scale.
Oh, good. But yeah, that's a good video idea, honestly. Just watching you flounder would be hilarious.
Yeah, it would be very fun. And also,
I wish I could be like that.
In the image of me in a wide classroom at a tiny little desk, that is a really funny image.
It is.
I think just a single desk in a giant classroom is really funny.
All right. Well, with that, thank you all so much for being here. If you've enjoyed...
I would do an escape room like that, yeah. All right.
Yeah, that would be pretty good, actually. If you've enjoyed this content, please like, subscribe, and or follow to see more amazing content like this. We do Table Talk every Thursday, 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. You can also keep an eye on the channel for any videos we're pumping out. We've hit some really good super chats up the ampage.
With a $100 super chat, I will not ground myself before I get shocked.
But oh god, that made me lose my train of thought.
Sorry.
No, it's all good. It was worth it. Check us out. We got some big things coming. We are getting past the halfway mark to being an official channel. Things did slow up in the winter months. I also had a lot of personal issues. If you want to see that, check out the YouTube is Hard video. Kind of goes over a lot of what was happening. We're still kind of getting back in order, but I think we're doing really good. The new Gunslinger video has been doing phenomenally so far, honestly. And honestly, like, we just got nowhere to go about. And we got a lot of good ideas. I'm very excited for where we're going. And, you know, y'all can participate with us by either joining, you know, subscribing or joining the Discord and chatting with us there. But with that, let's go ahead and say goodnight.
Good night.
Good night.